this. Alright, cool. Good evening and welcome to another episode of Don't Judge the Book by the Author. Today we have a very special, talented author in the building. A Hackneytherian, if you like, a fellow Hackneytherian, another guy who's grown up in the same community as myself, and I'm proud to have him on the show. I'm proud to introduce another author from my community. It's very overwhelming. But it's not just about another author from my community, it's about another author from my community who's writing a book about the community. So I'd like to introduce Richard Yeboah, author of From Hackney With Love. Welcome.
Appreciate it,
Brother Rich.
Appreciate to be here.
People, please, we all talk about gentrification every single or every other day with each other. Someone's either complaining about it, debating about how things have changed. I'm not going to say too much right now, but this book here is an eye-opener to those who need to know what it feels like to experience those changes, having lived through it, and those who are coming to live in it now to understand what those changes were. It's on both sides of the coin. But yeah, let me introduce to you the guest again, Richard Yeboah from Hackney With Love.
Blessings, it's great to be
Welcome,
here.
bro.
Great to be here. And it's, as I said, that you've been a huge inspiration for the book.
You said that to me, yeah.
You know, when I read Prisoner to the Streets, it obviously, because we've both grown up in Hackney, we've both, obviously your experience is like been amazing in the context of my book, thinking about the experience of kind of hardship and crime and some of the difficulties that a lot of us have gone through in Hackney, and how a lot of that has actually been impacted by gentrification. And yeah, writing this book is going back to what you said. This is a discussion that so many people talk about day in, day out, about how long-standing communities who have lived through hardship, through poverty, through poor housing, through poor education, through high levels of crime, are now being pushed out by wealthier middle-class communities. And the book is really about talking about that journey and how people like me and you are not being respected in that transformation.
That's a powerful description for what the book's about, I must say. What inspired you? I think I know the answer, but what inspired you? Please tell the viewers and the listeners what inspired you to, because a lot of us are going through it, like I said, a lot of us are talking about it, but what made you say, you know what, the story needs to be told, and what angle is it coming from without saying too much? Is it the perspective of yourself, or but without saying too much? Can I please?
I think there was a lot of things that inspired me, Robin. So obviously, as you know, when you've grown up in Hackney, you've kind of always thought that this place was your home. Do you know what I mean? Obviously, we spoke a couple of weeks ago about when you grow up in an area, like all your friends are the same, you're all kind of living through the struggle of growing up through inner city life. When you've been through that and you've kind of emerged through that.
Sirens every day.
You emerge through that and you somewhat feel a sense of survival. When things start to change, particularly after the Olympics, and you start to see the transformation of communities, I think I got to a point where, you know, I had to start documenting some of these changes. Principally because I felt like that experience that we had been through way back when was being lost, was being ignored, but also our survival in the future is at risk as well. You know, because of gentrification, we're not able to buy homes. Our schools are changing with the rise of academies. Policing has become a lot more stricter, and that was evidenced in the riots. So there's been a lot of things that kind of influenced me to write the book. When COVID-19 happened in particular, and you know, everything went silent and the streets went quiet, I realised how much Hackney had actually changed. I think when you live through it and you kind of seen all the changes, it's not as apparent, but as soon as the gentrification happened, the COVID-19 pandemic happened, and just walking through the streets of Hackney and seeing how different the shops were, the buildings were, the communities were, kind of made me think, look, I need to write this book, and I need to write this book now. So yeah, there's so many different factors, but again, the book is a deep history and somewhat of a personal memoir. Going back to your book, it was really important for me to talk about the personal experience of how my life has been affected by Hackney back in the day, but also how Hackney's been affected, or my life's been affected by gentrification in Hackney as well. And not just my life, but the life of so many others, like yourself, like younger people who can't afford a home, older people that have been pushed out, families that have been pushed out. You know, all of that needs to be contextualized within the context of gentrification and the various different issues that have affected communities.
I'm really proud of you for putting together this piece of work, because historical, literally, it's a book that gives you historical context. And I haven't read it yet, people. I haven't read it. Don't want to give away that impression, or I would be firing questions at him if I had read it. But the conversations we've had leading up to the book has given me enough of the insight to be able to have this conversation. And know, I'm just happy I've finally got my copies brought ahead today, and I'm just like, yeah, that's getting devoured ASAP. My review's gonna be up ASAP, probably before I edit this video. So yeah, but I say I'm proud of you because it's historical, and I think we spoke about the Windrush when we first spoke, and I said to you how important the Renaissance is, the Harlem Renaissance of writers black writers coming together in America to talk their side of things, to tell their stories, and I feel like this is that now. That's why I don't want to be seen as an individual author on a mission, because you can't write all the books, you can't write about every subject. You need everyone to do their part to make it that Renaissance come to fruition. So this is a story that's always been close to my heart, but was I moved to write it? No. It wasn't ordained for me to write. I told you I've seen a film in this, but that's not been on my mind for now. But I'm like, this subject, I don't know who was going to be the first to boldly step up and say, from our community, yeah, let's have this conversation, not a podcast, let's tell the story from, not bird's eye view, from POV, from the person living. And I'm proud of you for doing so. I don't like to use this blackmail stuff, but you are a blackmail, but yeah, I'm proud of you for doing it, for the stereotypes that would write you off for doing that. And bro, I'm just proud, man, just well done. And yeah, tell us more about the book, the parts that you want to tell us, which don't tell us too much, but yeah, well done, bro. So this is historical, this is amazing, this is a part of literature that will stand the time because of what you're talking about.
I appreciate kind words.
True words.
I appreciate it. But going back to what you said just then about like who was best placed to write this book, right? So, you know, anyone could have wrote about gentrification in Hackney.
From their experience.
You know, there's been a lot of people, there's been a lot of writers about Hackney that have wrote about the experience of communities for the last 10, 15, 20 years. One of the problems that those books have done is that, one of the problems those books have had is that they're even not spoken from someone who's actually lived the experience of Hackney, which I think is so unique. It's so different to any other part of the country because of the very specific issues that Hackney has faced, like I mentioned before, around housing, around crime, around education, around health, around care, around all these different issues. So when you live in Hackney, you need to be able to really fully understand that experience. And I think when you write about Hackney and don't understand that experience, it doesn't come through. And it didn't come through in a lot of the literature. But I also think what is unique, Robin, is the point around being a black man, and a point around being a black man specifically at the time we grew up in.
Yeah.
Because when you think about the 90s and 2000s, that was like a time where, like, I say this a lot, but like that was like probably the epicenter of where Hackney was at its worst state in history.
Even being labelled murder mile.
Murder mile and all, do you know what I mean? Like we remember the times where, you know, like say where I grew up in from like around Wells Street or Homan, you couldn't go to certain places in Hackney, or I went to Carlton Pole, but going to certain schools in Hackney, the schools getting shut down, and you was always at risk of getting robbed outside your school or outside.
Especially if you were at Cardinal Pole, because they saw a good school.
They were like a good, like at the time they were like a good school.
Catholic, Roman Catholic.
Do you know what I mean? And it's like, I felt like it was important for me, specifically, growing up in Hackney, being a black man that understands the struggle of growing up in the borough, to document that. And as I said, not only document my experience, but the experience of so many different people that have grown up in this borough, who have been affected by what has effectively happened is a real transformation of people's experience, where people who lived in really poor housing 20 years ago, and obviously you grew up near Holly Street or the Holly Street estate, where, you know, people were living in tower blocks, homes that weren't fit for living, homes that were being burgled, homes that had cockroaches.
All that's working in the flats at times.
Do you know what I mean? To redeveloping that estate and then saying to those communities who have lived through that hardship, you can no longer be here. And if you are able to come back to the estate, you're going to find it difficult to buy a home, or your future generation is going to find it difficult to buy a home. To add to that, you've got all these different components where you say, we're going to build a new school and we're going to ensure that this is an academy school where only certain children who are able to live in that catchment area can go to that school. And we're going to ensure that we over-discipline those kids to ensure they get high standards of high educational attainment in terms of their examinations. But that causes additional problems where you say, if I can't afford a home near these schools, who is going to be able to afford a home in these areas? Richer, white, middle class communities. And that's what has happened across Hackney, where you redevelop all these estates, like the Holly Street estate, like the Trowbridge estate, like Clacton Park, like in Pembury, like in Dalston. You redevelop these schools, and then you subsequently over-police young people. You transform these areas with new shops and new market stalls, and you make it more attractive for wealthier middle class communities. You are effectively saying to those existing communities, you no longer belong here. And I think that's what the book is trying to encapsulate, that our voices do matter. And they matter because we've been through that hardship and we've survived through it, and we're now subsequently thriving through it. So I think the book does that, and like you said, I hope it does have quite a lasting impact in terms of telling that journey, telling that history.
I think it just based again on our conversation and things you asked me about my experience. And I remember some of the thoughts I shared with you at the time prior to you writing the book, or during, you writing the book, or the process of you writing. I remember sharing thoughts of not just my own with you, other people's thoughts. And even the other day I was around my area, I think I was telling you, I walked past, which is like my old house. I usually have a riding parcel, a driving parcel, but that day I walked past and it was, I forget, sometimes you forget when you're walking past, it's a different thing to driving past or riding past. And as I'm walking past, I see someone go into this house with the same number as mine. It wasn't the same building. They've knocked down the house where I used to live, but there's new flats there and penthouses and all the rest of it. So I've walked past and I'm a bit shocked. So I've just said, wow. I said to the people going, I used to live there. It was really a weird moment, probably a bit, I wouldn't say maybe stalkerish if we see them walking past here. And then they say, I used to live there. I think they was taken back a bit, and then I had to pause and say, no, like, I used to live in this house before it was knocked down.
Yeah.
But I know that the people that I'm talking to, just like in the book, they're not from Hackney. They've moved to Hackney. They're probably from Australia for all I know. I can't remember the accent I heard. But they've moved here and they're able to pay for those affordable houses that you're talking about. So where I remember being a child and them offering, the council offering my gran, if I remember, to sell the place, and they'll take, I can't remember how it happened, I was young, but they were threatening to knock down part of the house at the time. I remember, why are we going to do that? But this is, as a young child, I remember them offering, and my gran saying no. And to see that it's happened, I'm like, there's no memory of where I grew up, for one. So I've gone around the corner to see my friend, long story short, and I said to her, yeah, I just walked past and said hello to these people, like, randomly. They probably spooked out, but it's not that deep. I was just blown away, and that's what the brain does. That's home to me. So if it was my home that I used to live in, and it was the same house, then yeah, it would be different. But there's a whole goalpost shift there. You guys, on this doorstep, I've seen things. I've seen a lot of things. I've told you about some of those things I've seen. Horrific.
100%. It's madness. No, it's madness. It's madness,
It's been horrific.
Yeah.
So then when I'm walking past, I'm like, you wouldn't even know who you're speaking to. And you wouldn't even know that I'm an author or you probably just think, stereotype, I'm just a random person walking in. But nah, I'm not. And I've gone around the corner and I've seen my friend and we're talking. I've gone to see my friend and I'm at her house. Her daughter goes to one of those new schools and she's at school at the time and we're talking and I'm waiting for something for the garage and we're talking. And I'm like, sis, this area's changed because I'm on foot now. My things in the garage. I'm like, area's changed. And she's like, yeah. And then we're outside talking and I'm looking at the buildings and she's saying that, and they're doing scaffolding right there. And I'm like, how come they're not scaffolding at your house? And she says to me, because that's the private people. I said, I want it backside. Is that what's going on? I said, are you serious? She said, yeah, these are the people that were from the council. I said, so even though they're building up, I said, you know what, there's a deeper story here than what some like to talk about. And that's why I'm happy again that this book's been written, because a lot of things need to be unveiled. Sometimes you need to open the curtain a bit to see outside the window. And I feel like, yeah, we can't, people don't see what's going on outside. It is mind-boggling. Like, forget the trauma that we experienced on the street, whatever. The good memories have been not taken, but you're taking things where I remember things. And it's not bad, change is inevitable, growth is inevitable. But for me, I remember talking to you thinking, well, as a people, we've only been here for how long? And we've had to fight just to feel like, to get that community feel that you're talking about. And the second it came, yeah, a lot of it came with crime, and people say, oh, we're responsible for it, but again, that's not absolutely true. We didn't bring the crime. A lot of that crime was structured for it to be there. It wasn't just houses that in Hackney, it was single parent houses. It was flats that resembled prisons and the basketball courts that resembled the yards. It was all of that when we were growing up. That's why when Prison to the Street, I talk about it reminded me of a prison. The flats reminded me of a prison. It's if you rebuild the area, how much value do you give back to those people when you rebuild an area like that and allow those people to live in the same houses? How much value do you give back and you allow them to buy those houses and give them a deposit and allow them to do something? Then that's asking a lot. But so the point I'm making is you give them those houses to work towards being able to buy, rather than sapping it from them and making them feel outside and having penthouses looking down on them while they're still in the council flat, new buildings. It is insane to me. So when you came to me to learn that last part of the research, I've not read this book, people, but I know what he's put in here is pucker. So when we had such a deep conversation, I remember relaying some of those thoughts to you, saying, bro, I won't even say what I said, but like, bro, I'm not even fighting for the same things I used to fight for because I've been twanged and I'm not upset anymore. I'm not upset about gentrification, man. I get it.
You know what's mad, Rob? Because you said a lot, and I'm trying to. Sorry, because you said a lot of important things. But the last point I'm going to kind of respond to first is the point around, you know, what are we really fighting for here? And as I said, and as you said, I'm not going to speak too much on the content of the book.
Yeah, to give away.
Go buy it. But one of the really important points that me and Robin spoke about was about what we really fighting for, and the idea that, you know, places do change. Hackney's always had this history of transformative communities, from the middle class communities from the 1700s, 1800s to the Irish and Jewish communities in the early 1900s and late 1800s, to the Caribbean communities and the Windrush and the African communities and the refugees and the Turkish communities, etc. But I think one of the biggest things I tried to kind of maximize and emphasize in the book is that generation of people from, I would say, the latter half of the 20th century, what's the best way to say this? I think we built the essence of Hackney, in my opinion. So when you think about Hackney, people talk about, I know people talk about Murder Mile, the poor schools, all that kind of stuff. But they also speak about the multicultural communities, the resistance against racism, the political activism, the cultural importance of Hackney, like Idris Elba, or people come from Hackney like Idris Elba or Trevor Nelson or Gabrielle or Labyrinth or...
Who said Gabrielle?
Yeah, the singer.
She's from Hackney?
She's from Hackney, yeah.
That's new to me, Big Dream.
Yeah.
True, yeah, I didn't even know. That's one of my favourite. Gabrielle's from Hackney.
Yeah, Julie Love, all these different people.
Yeah, big up Julie Love. I knew that,
You know?
she did my book launch as well. Big up Julie, there's more. But yeah.
There's a lot more, and you know when, like, you see with Hackney, the Hackney that we built, the Hackney of yesteryear, is what is being lost through gentrification. And that's going back to your point about what we are fighting for. Maybe it isn't a fight in itself. It isn't a fight to say, you know, we want to remain here, because, like you said, the really important point you said, Robert, is that, you know, is this our place to keep? But what I would say I'm fighting for through the book is the cultural history, keeping that alive, keeping that remembered. Because one of the things I always thought about when I was doing my research on, like, kind of the history of Ghana or the history of African nationalism before colonialism, is one of the big things that's always missing is the history of its people before there was the so-called invasion of the white man. Similar to what's happening in Hackney, Hackney's being transformed and is being much more catered to white middle class communities. And the history that we remember is being lost. The stories that you told me, Robin, both today and when we've spoken over the last couple of weeks and months, and the stories that you've put so wonderfully in your book, those stories are going to be lost in the next 20, 30, 40 years if they're not documented. And it's all good us speaking about it orally, but when I speak to my son about it, or when you speak to your children about it, or whatever it may be, as time goes on, the belief in those stories is going to become less and less, because all they're going to see is these new builds, these new schools, these trendy shops. They're not going to believe the stories that you spoke about. But I remember them. And I think what the book is basically trying to emphasize, that don't lose the essence of that Hackney. Don't lose the importance of the history, the culture that we built, that we survived through. because you want to transform these places for newer communities who, in my opinion, don't really appreciate it enough. Not all, but there's a common consensus that there's not an appreciation for someone who grew up in Hackney in the 90s, 2000s, went to school, went to a shit school, then struggled to find a job, was also at threat from gangs, police harassment, racial harassment, lived in the area that was poor, had neighbours that were poor.
Self-hate, self-destruct.
And then they get to 30, 40 and then they can't even afford to stay here.
And the funny thing is about gentrification, I always say it's not just Hackney, Brixton, anyway, the black community specifically, and I say black because they're not black, they're more cultural, but it seems to be where we congregate the most. And this is why it always seems like an ongoing attack, and that's why I don't like to really focus on colour. And that's where I start to feel like I don't belong. It started to feel, I remember, rest in peace, my big brother, Crimson Ren, aka Crimson Ren, Mark Ren. I remember before he passed away, years back, we would be walking, like 10 years ago, we'd be walking down Dalston as the changes were happening. He was blessed with a new flat to rent out as a council, which was some of the positives when I see some of my friends who came from ghetto flats get housed in. It was good, it was like, yeah, at least you feel a part of it. But then it wasn't the same community living in those flats, and they were being looked down upon and shunned down upon, and I didn't really understand. But anyway, when we were walking down Dalston, my friend was a real Garveyite, if you like. He loved Africa, and he would wear his clothes and talk about African history. And when we were walking down the street, sometimes I could see his frustration, and it affected him a lot, because it didn't affect me at the time, it started to affect me later. He'd be walking down the street, and I think because he's older, he saw things I didn't see, but white people will be standing there like they don't want to move out of the way, and they'll see you walking, and like, it's nuts. I'm like, give a man his space, and not even looking. Like, I'm like, but the culture divide is so different, because, and then we revert to what we remember when we were younger. If you were younger and you're walking down the street, a man's walking towards you, it's going to be a problem. But these lot, it's like they're walking lines of 4 and take up the whole pavement, and still walking. They see an old woman kind of like cut that out. My friend would point those things out and he'd be like, no, I don't like that. And I never really took notice to it until I'll be walking with him, and he'd be like, you see that, Robin? I'd be like, what? And I'm like, bro, I didn't pay it. You see that shop there that I used to see how they go? And I wasn't paying. I was trying to be. Yeah. And as time got on, I realized, nah, man, I feel like getting rubbed out. But because my memories of the community were so negative, in the sense of some of the street stuff, I was like, didn't really care what they were doing in the community. But then I started to look at it as it started to take place, and I'm like, I do care. But I knew it wasn't mine. When we were beefing as kids on the street, the flaps were being knocked down. I saw from then, I saw the beginning of gentrification hit my glass window in year 5 in primary school, when Holly Street tower blocks got lit down, and the dust came on my window. That's my first part of gentrification. And from that day, I knew I'm in primary school. So the area where we're playing, in year 7, people talk like gentrification is an overnight process. No, we were throwing stones at, I said in prison to the street, we were throwing rocks at each other. We grew up in a demolition estate. Our estate wasn't whole. There was fractured families, not fractured friendships, let's say, communities, as a result of people being told to come out. And Tony Blair was in power at the time, but the incentive for the Holly Street demolition was to give people better housing. That was the lie. There's always an agenda. That housing wasn't for those people. And that's why people feel rugged. If those who have moved in off of the back don't understand, I don't know if that's documented in here, but that's something I even thought about and I think about. That's what people's mad about. They were promised different, better housing, and it always seems like they are the oppressed. They're never, not only heard, they're shoved out, not just ignored like you said, but it's deeper than ignored. You're invisible. You can't not just hear you, I don't even see you. So, that's the truth. So, sorry, we just cut out for a second. So I thought about Purge, the film, but jokes aside, imagine a film where, and don't take my idea, where, and I thought about this, The people that lived in Hackney and Brixton before had enough and decided they got one day to run everyone out of their houses, and if we could get the houses back, I'm sure that we would do it, is what I'm saying to you. I'm sure we would try to get some form of accommodation, and I say that as a joke, but really that's how it feels. Horrible, man. It feels like it's a reminder of slavery. It's a reminder, and it's not on the same level, but it's a reminder that it's seen as 3/5 of a human. You're not. That's how I feel. So I don't have any connection to Hackney anymore. In fact, anyone who knows me knows I can't stand Hackney. I have the good memories. I'm not going to leave it there. I have good memories, but it's hard to remember them because the football cage has been knocked down. It's great memories, but it's hard to. I have to remember them up here now. I have to remember where the swing was. I have to remember where I took the trip and my mum chased me with the Dutch pot and then I jumped into the bush, and people still remind me of those stories now. Like, why wasn't that story in your book? I'm like, bro, I didn't remember. When I was writing my book, the old buildings wasn't there for me to. If the old flats were there when I wrote Prison to the Street, would have had a 10 times better book. I would have had better memories. That's the level of damage it does to the mind. Especially if you've been to jail. And you've come out and you've...
Trust me.
guys that went to jail before the flats and now have to come out to long buses that swiggle.
Yeah.
It's psychologically... And then we've got... Let's not even get into technology. So... People talk about mental health like they care about it. Well, this can affect your mental health.
100%.
The world moving at 100 miles per hour and you're still left behind, and people say, well, he's trapped in the past. But the past is the only thing he remembers, and the past was only 15 years ago. A lot has happened in a short space of time.
A lot.
These academies, everything's happened in a short space of time, and yeah, so I'm really, like, as you can hear the passion from me, I'm grateful that you've done it. And so I wasn't saying who's best to do it, I said who's ordained. So you said earlier who's about best. I think I've said the word ordained. Yeah. And the reason why I said ordained, because you're chosen to write. You were chosen. It sat on you to action what was on your heart. And that's why I say I'm proud, because these stories, there's so much more stories that need to be told about, and I say history, because literature's never been a black thing. That's why I make such a big deal about it. It's about his story. That's what we call it. It's always been history. But I want to hear our story in the context of history now. So this is historical. That's why I say this is our story being presented through the lens of a young man in his 30s who was moved to explain to the world, not just to Hackney people, to the world what gentrification does. Because it goes on in Brooklyn, it goes on all over the world. But let's talk about it. Let's read about it, sorry. We'll talk about it.
100%. But you know, when you said something about, you know, the whole point around, you know, certain communities taking control of like pavements when they're walking down the street, right? And one of the things I always think about is, you know, like in this day and age, there's a huge political debate about like racism and reform, and like this idea that you know asylum seekers are bad and all that kind of stuff. And it makes me always think that, you know, some British people that live here feel really insecure about the small proportion of black people or ethnic minority people or global majority people in Britain at this time, which is, I think, no more than probably 5-6%. I can't quote that, but it's probably a small portion. So how do you think people feel in Hackney who have, or particularly I would say black and multi-ethnic people, who when they arrived here wouldn't have been accepted in any other part of the country apart from the inner city areas of Brixton, Peckham, Tottenham, Harlesden, Stonebridge, maybe Camden, Hackney 100%, right? And they've come here in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s because other places where they weren't going to...
Clapham is a key.
Clapham. Some people didn't want to rent to them. You know the whole, no blacks, no Irish, no dogs.
Sorry, we forgot the main Notting Hill.
Notting Hill was the original.
Yeah, there's too much stories of fighting to be included and then to be kicked out so soon. And this is what I'm saying for me, and that's why I'll always say, I'm glad you wrote the book, but emotional. Well, I was so emotional about it. Once my friend passed away, it's like that energy transcended to me. I was walking down the road and I started to get angry.
Yeah.
And it just all hit me like, right now I know my friend's not here, he's passed away, my big brother, I'm like, now I can't tell him that I get it.
Yeah.
They're taking the piss, bro. Like, when I say they, I mean those who are not from London who've come here, and it's not even personal, I ain't got nothing against you, but you are taking the piss when you're walking down the street. You know that on paper, when you watch Top Boy was filmed here, right? Do you know that the Top Boy that they're filming, these buildings wasn't in that show? So you know that the history of this area, even though Top Boy is way off the Richter scale, and they didn't come and talk to true people like myself, but cool. They know that Top Boy is a reflection of these ghetto in the city deprived areas. You would never in a million years want to move here without that rooftop,
100%.
without the safety, without the new infrastructure being put into place. So the fact that you know that you have that privilege, and then when we're walking down the street, you want me to move out the way. As my bigger brother used to say, he used to say he's not moving, and I'll think, right, he's just an angry black man. I thought he was an angry black man. Like, my brother, sometimes he's just too passionate about this. Then I thought, no, he's not. Because when I was walking down the street as a child, before my time, let's go to my granddad's era, or my dad's era, I don't know what age it was. Black people couldn't go to Shoreditch. People don't understand this. I found that out when I was 19, when I come out of jail from whatever age, I was 20 something. And I remember hearing, "Wow, you lot used to fight in Shoreditch." She said, "Yeah, the NF used to beat us up." I'm like, "What?" They're like, "Yeah, we had to run them down, not beat us up. They used to try to beat us up. We had to run them down and fight them. They used to stab us." That's the first form of knife crime. So I'm like, "Oh, we lot couldn't hang around in Hackney." Yes, and we made it safe for you. And then look what you lot are doing. That was the first moment I felt repulsed by my past. And then I look at what it is now and I'm thinking, so they fought for us to be here. We got conflicted, because we didn't know our history of why it was safe for us in the first place. It wasn't documented. That part was missed. So then we didn't know about our granddad's fight. We didn't read the books. There's no books out there telling us that. There's no one pushing that in our face. I don't hear no black authors, I don't want to name drop any of them authors telling us stories. They were talking about our stuff, being fiction authors. No, tell us what's going on. So no one was filling in those gaps. That's why I write so raw and there's no PC. So there's a gap missing that you've just filled in. That gap, Prison to the Streets, another gap that will help people understand why to not get caught up on the streets, because it was stupid. I wrote it to show the youngers, you don't think the streets is about that? Nah, man, this didn't start with no drugs, or don't let the media not fool you now. Nah, man, it's not over territory. Nah, man.
Exactly.
Don't let all of that fool you. You lot don't know that the area you're representing, 5 of those guys from this area hang around with us. There's not no strict American rules. What are you not dealing with? But because you don't know the story, you go by what you've heard. And that manipulates and heightens the situation and makes people more fearful and more susceptible to becoming prisoners to the streets. So you have to fill in the gaps. That's why I said this story I'm proud of. We didn't get the older generation when they were fighting for us. We got my generation late. I wish I had that book when I was growing up, Prison to the Streets, so I could have not got caught out, but cool. It happened when I was growing up, so it had to happen. This story is, as Dr. Dre says, the aftermath.
Yeah.
This is the look at the effects, and there's still continuous effects from what this is doing to people who are still living here. But this is looking at the effects of rent being too high, people being having to move out the area because they can't afford the rent, having to move to country. It's like a substitution. You lot come where you can afford it, where there's jobs and there's opportunities and business in the city and all the rest of it, and just like what they do in South Africa and all these other countries, you lot can go live in the townships.
Yeah.
So I'll leave my point here without saying what I said in the book, because I don't want to spoil it, but as much as I love the memories I had here, Hackney, England, was just a place where my grandparents came after the Windrush, and some of them couldn't make it back home. Their intention was never to stay. So I need to continue the legacy of getting my ancestors back to Africa. That's all I'm going to say. So I'm grateful for my experience, and I think the story should be detailed, and so when people study in years to come, they'll know the full story. There was a period of black people in the UK trying to live a certain life, then they realised Africa is where I'm from. went to the Caribbean from Africa, went to America from Africa. There's a triangle, and they call it the slave triangle, but I'm trying to return back. So for me, gentrification doesn't bother me as much as it did. Because like I went with my brother to Gambia before he passed away, rest in peace, Mark King, rest in peace. When he passed, when we went to Gambia, my man kissed the floor. I've never seen him do that in those days. He went down and kissed the floor. We are home. And I looked at him like, rah, my man's like, and I wasn't even connected emotionally. I was like, rah, why is he doing all that? And then it hit me when I started to do certain training over there. I was like, my spirit came alive. I was like, rah, I'm African. Oh my God. I'm finally on the right charger. I'm not on a Samsung charger with an iPhone phone. I finally got an iPhone charger. Bling! It's like Wakanda forever. So for me, I can say it, I can't express that feeling. They say the children of Israel must return. Gentrification, you lot can have that, man. This is yours, man. This is yours. I love the story, but for me, this is you lot, so you can have that. I'm sorry for anyone who doesn't feel the way I feel. But yeah, I'm at peace now because I found sense in the nonsense of hundreds of years of my people. Malcolm X died in America. Marcus Garvey kept telling people to go home. And I won't say too much. I say Malcolm X died in America. Americans get on with their life. And he fought dying for a cause. Martin Luther King. Some people said he was working with whatever age. I'm not going to get into that. The conspiracy theories. Maybe they did. Maybe they were dodgy. I don't know. I can't talk about it. I don't know. But what I do know is that what I heard them saying in their speeches was freedom. I can only go off that, not conspiracy theories. And for these people to be defending black people in Western land and getting killed, and nothing has changed since everything that they said. And Trump's in power, and you've seen the world for what it is, and racism still at its height. It's simple. Why are you arguing for freedom on unfamiliar territory? I'd rather do what Abraham Traore does and fight on my own land. I don't mind getting deported back to Africa. Just give me the money. No, they say go back home. I'm cool with all the flags. I'm cool. You see me, and this is why maybe I might even be a bit detached to people, but I'm just really cool with it. Like, if all my neighbours had a British flag up now, which they don't, because we're in Hackney. This is why reminiscents of Hackney still sticky. Y'all ain't putting your flags up in Hackney. Gentrification on that. There's gonna be a bit of, we still got a bit of time.
We ain't seeing no flags, We ain't seeing no flags.
Brixton's probably not seeing flags either. Peckham's 100% not seeing flags. But the truth is, if you lot put your flags up, I put mine up as well. I put up my British flag up on it.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll play along with it.
Exactly.
Because the Caribbean and Africa, we built the empire. It lives off us. It lives off the jewels, it lives off everything. So I'm not going to get emotionally connected to ignorance. You can't fight ignorance. You can only play along with it. Most racist people are ignorant. There's a lot of white people who are not racist. I love you lot to pieces, man. The ones of you who understand yourself, I love you, man. Black people, there's a lot of us who are ignorant too, and you don't know. That's why you've got the self-hate. A lot of you are self-racist, self-hatred. So it's racist. You're racist to yourself because you would stab a black man on the high road in Dalston, but a white guy walking past you, you lot move out the way for it. So gentrification's taught me that we got self-hate as well. We have to own it. I'm not a person who's going to look at blame the world and not blame ourselves. We've got to look at ourselves, man. And some of that self comes from the conditioning and the confusion and being told you belong here and all the rest of it. So for all the people who want to know about the effects of gentrification, this is my side. This isn't the story of the book, me saying that I don't care anymore, I want to go home. That's me saying that. But this book's going to give you an insight into so many different perspectives of how it's affected other people. That's my outcome of it. I'm tired of fighting everybody.
But you know what, Robin, though? Yeah. I want some people to read the book and come out like that. Do you see what I'm saying? Because the book isn't designed to be like, this is how you need to think about gentrification. I want people to read the book and determine what their response or what their feelings should be.
Because they've probably not thought about it.
Do you understand what I'm saying? Because going back to the point you mentioned about prison to the streets, like, if someone asked about Hackney back in the day that knew it, postcode wars, drugs, or, I don't know, fields and this, Holly Street, fields and this group. Like, it was very simplistic, right? the analysis or the story that you gave was a detailed understanding of how growing up in this environment can place you in those situations rather than a simplistic idea.
I'm with you.
The same with from Hackney With Love. I'm not trying to just say, oh, a bunch of white people have come into the area and then said, we want to come back home, we want to live in these lavish properties, we want to transform their markets. What the book tries to give an analysis of is that actually gentrification affects so many different issues: housing, race, education, crime, gender, mental health. And what it's trying to expand on is that, based on what you just said, Robin, is I'm going to give you a full understanding of gentrification as much as I can, give the personal experiences of gentrification, and then you inform what you're going to do next. Are you going to fight against gentrification? Are you going to leave Hackney altogether? Are you not going to fight that fight?
Do you now understand how you feel about it?
Precisely.
Because I don't think I knew for years. That's why I think this is important. I think even our conversation triggered that response.
100%.
Because I don't think I knew how I felt until my brethren died, who used to behave the way he behaved, and then that conversation brought up more my feelings. I think that response came from that conversation. I was saying to you, bro, I don't care no.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
He was asking me on the phone about I don't care no more, I don't care. But that's something that I'm finding out when having that conversation. So I feel like this book is going to allow people, and that people may be, oh, well, that's just an emotional response, he's just talking from emotion.
But it is an emotional thing though, no?
Yeah, it's not an emotional response, but it is an emotional thing.
Yeah.
So it might sound like, even when I was talking to you when I first said it, might sound like an emotional response because he's frustrated of how he feels from Hackney With Love. I'm from Hackney and I don't feel no love, so I'm just like there's no love. Yeah. I don't feel at home. Where's home? Home is where the heart is. My home's here, my heart ain't here. What? I'm detached.
I hear it, man.
So this is just, and that revelation, this is a book that will give you your own revelation.
Exactly.
This is like, this book, the conversation that we had, and I know a lot of people who, I remember a girl, big up my sister Marissa, was it Marissa? I can't think it was, I think it was you, Marissa, I was talking to. I was walking down Holly Street one time, I heard Marissa was candidating one of the older girls from Holly Street, and we was talking, and walking past Holly Street School, and I said, flip me. Look at this, they got a building, flats attached to the school. And then someone said a joke about, oh no, I don't like that, because the paedophiles could get into the school. There's been real conversations off the grid about, which you probably would never hear anywhere else, because people are too PC, I'm not PC, so let's have the conversation. And when I heard that, I thought, right, imagine that, what if there are paedophiles? I ain't sending my kid to that school. But then I thought about it and I thought that's being negative, like pessimistic. But then jokes aside, why would you build a school like that with flats? It doesn't feel right as a child. And I'm not a child, but I remember being a child. And I'm like, but cool, it's not being structured for a community, it's being structured for like a business. It's been structured for people to test their architecture skills to see how what they studied would work if they was to make a building like this. I don't know what the reasons are, but I'm just like, it's not inclusive again. Then we could even go into the youth club, but that's a whole different conversation. So yeah, I'm not going to say anything else on this because I need to read this book and I need to sit with it. That's what you lot need to do. I need to sit with it, get out of my feelings, even though I feel the same way. I need to sit with it and hear what Rich has compiled, because based on our conversations, I know I'm going to be reading stuff about even the LGBTQ community. When I was younger in Hackney, you couldn't LGBTQ pass goes to McDonald's. Now if you're LGBTQ, whatever they call it, I don't want to make jokes because that's what Dave Chappelle kept doing. Now if you walk down Dawson, you could move the bad boys out the way if you're LGBTQ too. The LGBTQ, what's it going to say?
LGBTQ.
LGBTQ2.
LGBTQ.
I'm dyslexic. LGBTQ.
Yeah.
LGBTQ. So if you're LGBTQ, what? You could walk down Dawson and be a man wearing a dress. I kid you not. And it's happened to me, that's why I'm saying it. Let me say my own experience there. I was walking down Dalston and these two guys, well, I didn't know they were guys. And then I was confused, and then I just had a shock because I've seen robberies outside Dalston McDonald's. I've seen shootouts. I've not seen two men dressing up like women walking down Dalston next to me, but wanted me to move out the way. And I moved out the way, I say it straight. Yeah, I moved out the way because I've never wanted to have confrontation with anyone from that side to be called supposedly hate crime, whatever you call it. So I don't want to get into no altercations. So I moved out the way. But in my mind I thought, right, imagine that, I wouldn't even have moved out for so-called bad boys back in the day. But that's what gentrification done in that same place. I've seen someone rob McDonald's as a kid or try to attempt to. So it's like all these memories and then experiencing that's the side effects of gentrification. That's me done. I'm going to go into this book with an open mind when I read it. I'm not going to be reading it with my preconceived feelings, even though there are my preconceived feelings. I'm not going to lie. I'm going to go into it with an open mind and see what Richard Yeboah has blessed us with and blessed the world with, not just Hackney. He's not just blessed Hackney with this book, he's blessed the world. So all you people, Brooklyn, I'm going to do whatever I can to get this book in Brooklyn because I know that you lot can relate to this as well. I've got a couple of links. So let's just have conversations about gentrification. Rich, where can people find you and what else do you want to add to this? I don't want to finish it too soon. Where can people find you just now in case I forget to ask that question?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok now.
I just started that.
I don't know that it works, man. But
still working it.
Do you know what I mean? I'm trying, man. I'm trying, but yeah,
similar to Instagram.
Yeah, it's like videos and that. But I'm on there. Rick Yeboah. It's RICYEBOAH. You can buy the book in Amazon and all major bookstores. I'll be doing a number of talks in the next few weeks and months, talking, kind of providing two different positions. One will sometimes be a bit more political, and a lot of the book talks about political history around gentrification, and some will be far more focused around the culture, the experience.
Have you not had a book launch? I don't believe you have.
No, I had one. When did I have one?
Was that the one I missed actually?
That's the one you missed, yeah.
I was busy time.
Yeah. But
how did the book launch go?
It was good, you know. It was very intimate. It was very much like just celebrating, conversational. Do you know what I mean? But I'm going to be doing a lot more talks, hopefully outside of Hackney, because like you said, gentrification is not just an issue in Hackney. The book is about Hackney.
Where can people find you as well? So we know to find your social. Where can they find you? You've got an email address if people want you to come and do those talks outside of Hackney.
Yeah, yeboah.online@gmail.com.
Cool.
Send me an email. As I said, Rob was a big influence in the book. It's great to chat today.
Yeah, humbled by that.
And
but people say that I get humbled, man.
No, it's the realness. Like, I'm gonna be real, man. And even as I said, our conversation, of all the conversations I had, because I interviewed so many people about the book, like yours was probably the most. It stuck with me a lot, and it changed my opinion a lot about the response to gentrification. That it isn't just one response, because a lot of people are just negative.
Yeah.
But there's negative, there's positive, and then there's, do you know what? I don't care. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm gone. It ain't my home.
Yeah.
So it's like all of the gentrification is causing all these different responses because it is so
entangled.
Do you see what I'm saying? People think about it daily. So it's like, yeah, man.
On both sides, everyone thinks about it. I can see it.
Yeah.
That's what makes it so. It's like when it was multicultural, it's still multicultural, but when it was just like, I don't know, I don't want to say ghetto. When it was Real McCoy times, Desmond times, if you like.
Yeah.
I'm going to give it TV shows to describe those eras. It was more. Everybody had a white boy Warren in the estate. We all loved white boy Warren, gonna steal a car or something. Like, it's like we grew up with working class white people. Like,
yes,
it wasn't. It's now a bit snobby, where people think they're better than you. I think that's where it comes as well. So it's a techie conversation. It's one that needs to be had. I'm so proud of you for doing it. I don't know how I would have tackled that one, because you have to be open-minded to write that book. You can't come with your preconceived. You can't come with my thoughts. Oh no, you can't come in and just say you don't care. You have to give it more body and get more input from other people. And I could see, I'm interested to read it because I want to see different perspectives outside of mine. What books do you plan to do in the future? This is the beginning of Richard, so is this they're going to be a continuation? Is there more to come from you?
I mean, genuinely, Robin, I don't know, because I'm like, I've got ideas, but like I've been writing this for like 10 years, so it's like it's always been focused around understanding the history. The book is deep. It's like it's not. As in, there's interviews from like the last 5 years, there's interviews from even before that. There's my own experience and all other people's experiences from like 20, 30, 40 years ago. There's political analysis in there, there's archives.
You read in basically.
Yeah, man, but there's a lot of other places that are affected by change, right? And there's a lot of ideas that I've got around places like Brixton, Tottenham and the Broadwater Farm Estate, Camden and gentrification there, the changes in the East End. All these different things are like things that we know are happening, places are changing, but are not being documented.
Yeah.
They're just not being documented at all. So it's like, this book is hopefully going to encourage someone from Tottenham to be like, do you know what? I want to talk about what happened in 85, what happened in 2011.
Sorry, but Tottenham's on the gentrification.
yeah.
I don't want to say that, but Tottenham, I'm seeing the changes, boy. You next. You don't know it already. I don't need to tell you.
Man.
You can see it. It's already taking place.
Yeah, man.
It's what shape it.
It's man. You seen Tottenham Hell now? I mean, to be fair, they built the stadium, and I thought Northampton Park would have been, but it's still there. Broadwater Farm's still there, but it's they got 10 years left.
Broadwater Farm's being knocked down.
It's being knocked down. Yeah.
I've seen the building demolished, and I've heard. I don't want to say it on camera. I've heard things years ago what they were going to be calling it. I even know the name of what it's going to be called, but I'm not going to say it. This is how we know that when you've been pushed out years ago, it's just cold, man. When you know people in high places and they tell you that this is going to take place, and so I knew Tottenham was going to happen before it started. That's all I can say. And I know what the name of Broadwater Farm is going to be called when it's not going to be called Broadwater Farm. So yeah, we'll see. It's interesting, but it's like. Just read the book, guys. That's all I can say, man. Just don't let nothing else distract your thoughts and views on gentrification until you read it and get your own understanding. Because I'm a very strong opinionated person. I don't want to drag people to my
and that's good.
Thoughts and views.
But you know, the book is gonna open up people's
minds
on all of it.
And give me one of your best reviews. I want to read a review first, then I want to ask you for a review. So I read one just now.
Trying to think.
From Hackney With Love succeeds admirably in its mission to deliver an intimate portrait of a community struggling with immense change. Leslie Kern, author of Feminicity and Gentrification, is Inevitable and Other Lives. I read another review. A superb account of the policies, as Richard was saying, and practices that have turned a once affordable multicultural, gritty London borough into a soulless playground for wealthier groups. Wow, I didn't even know you were going to say that. That's cool. Loretta Lee, scholar, activist on gentrification and former chair of the London Housing Panel. And I'll read the last review on the back of the book. Anyone interested in understanding what gentrification means to multi-ethnic working class communities in London should read Richard Yeboah's remarkable book. That's the 3 reviews at the back. Fire.
Pretty fair.
Yeah, I like the picture as well, man. Cool. Richard is a historian and a writer from Hackney, London. Yeah, I won't read all of this.
Pretty fair, man.
And there's a bit more deal about Richard here as well. Yeah, well, bro. Congratulations.
Thank you so much, man.
Again.
And, you know, we need to do something soon. We need to get working
It's gonna
soon.
happen.
Yeah.
It's just like, even as Ginger, I told you before we started on camera what my thoughts were on this, so we might can do something on this subject. My mind's just like, this is, you started the relay with this subject, and you got the baton, who you pass it to next. It's if you carry on running the leg, because you could go on and do other things with it. If
Wait
you
and
want
see,
it.
man.
Yeah, what I'm saying to you is that this conversation is a much needed conversation.
100%, man. 100%.
Yeah. So what's your best feedback? That's the last question I want to ask. What's your best feedback?
Best feedback. You know,
And the worst. Best versus worst. Best versus worst.
you know, it's mad because Robin, I expected a lot of people to be negative about the book.
You didn't get no negativity.
And, well, no, it's not just that, but obviously it's a touchy subject. And a lot of people were like, especially like from the gentrifiers, I thought they would have been like, well, you're speaking about us taking over Hackney and taking over houses, but they've been quite positive about the book because it's enlightened them about the actual experience. In terms of like the best feedback, I think a lot of people from outside of Hackney have really, well, two things. People from Hackney that have lived here for years have been like, yeah, this book's been needed for decades. Like, and I feel like some of the things you mentioned, like the places like Ridley Road or this and that, and the shop on Wall Street or like Holly Street Estate or Trowbridge Estate, like these are places that people have fond memories.
Positive criticism, you were saying some of the negative criticism.
Yeah, the negative criticism is people want me to include everything in the book. Like, oh, you missed out this element, or you didn't provide enough detail in this area, or you didn't go this far back, or you didn't give strong enough opinions in this area. And what I've tried to say to all those points is, I can't include everything. The purpose of the book is also to be a history for people in 20, 30, 40 years. But also at the same time, you got to enjoy the book. And if I include too much, you ain't going to enjoy it. So I'm trying to be as concise as possible.
Yeah, again,
as possible.
Again, it's not even whatever their complaints are or their critiques are. Doesn't seem like, I don't know. They want more things to be said. This is the open end of the conversation. There could be a part 2, there could be a part 3, but there also could be the people that complain. There's people in this way, they say, put up or shut up. Do something about it if you're so passionate.
100%.
Comment positive critique and say, I know what you've inspired me to go and dwell deeper than where the place where you go to, or look at that angle from whatever, because I don't feel like you did a great job on what you did and I commend it.
Exactly.
However, I feel like you could possibly write part 2. Let me know. I want to add some few things your way.
Exactly.
Some of those critiques are not personal. They're just people as, I don't know what to call them, man. They just don't know how to critique without thinking objectively.
Yeah.
This is a critique coming from a mind of, you could have done, you should have done, coulda, shoulda, woulda. He didn't. He did this. But why don't you say, okay, he did great with this and cool. I think you should write more. I think you should do part 2 of X, Y, Z.
Or someone else can do. You know, this is a journey. This is for all of us.
There's too much people to talk this story through.
Yeah.
You could get someone our grandmother's age to talk on this, who's still alive.
Who's got a different perspective. Do you understand?
Of part 2. Or you could get someone who's younger, I don't know, 10-year-old.
Exactly.
And he might not know any difference. So that compiles maybe 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Maybe that all 3 books do come from you again. But what these people need to do in criticising is don't just criticise. Give ideas. If the criticism is not positive criticism, then it's just criticism.
Just criticism.
So big up. No, you'll get my review within the next couple of days, man. I'm going to be onto this book. Well, not tonight, I've got a headache, but tomorrow I'm going to be onto it. So man. Bless you again for coming, Richard.
Robin, thank you again. Blessings and
legendary. From Hackney With Love. Legendary.
Yes.
Honor, people. Listen, this is the guy, man. I'll show you one more time. I want to blur it up, hold on, because this is what you got to do. Sharp now. To Hackney, from Hackney With Love. Richard Yeboah, people. Be there, be square, get this book, man. Read it up, leave your reviews. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Bless you and thank you for watching. Peace out, everybody.